Hello, hello, hello. Okay, so back to looking at Mr. Larry here.
Yeah, Mr. Burkill.
So we were talking about Yarmouth, the crates or from the they used to construct
there was a shortage of building material when the war was over. There were lots of hangars in Yarmouth that were no longer going to be used anymore, and they were really new, fresh lumber. So those hangars were torn down, and they used it to build houses. But you had to declare, when you purchased a house, that you were aware that it wasn't brand new lumber, it was used lumber. They had taken the nails out.
Really?
Yeah, that was, well, because it wasn't brand new. It was supposed to be a new house, supposed to be new material. So that was, and they weren't prefabs then. I don't know what they called them, but you had to state that. Right?
Oh, that's interesting.
And on my recent trip to there, I was unable to find where the place was. When I got home, then I found another address, which was a little too late. But I went to City Hall, I went everywhere. Went to the mortgage people, and the address they gave, nobody knew in Yarmouth where that was in their own little community. So then I knew, if they don't know, I gave up.
So that house that they bought was made from this material.
And we would call it recycled material, right?
Yeah, recycled.
Yeah, but it wasn't old worm-eaten wood. It was nearly brand new wood. I'm going to assume that the hangars are probably 5 years old at the most.
Do you have any memories of that place?
Yeah.
Oh, you do?
I have a few memories, yeah.
Oh.
One of them was the Hornets. And when I was that age, I never gave it up, even as an adult. I liked to go where used stuff was, and there was a wrecking yard nearby with wrecked cars in it. So even then, I guess I was attracted to that. So I was walking through it, looking in cars, and one was full of Hornets. And I got chased by the Hornets, and I ran home at 50 miles an hour, and they ran behind me at 50 miles an hour. And I ran into the house and slammed the door. Another situation that I would visit again when I was 22 years old, and you could hear them hitting the screen door. Bang, 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 bang. And I got stung pretty bad. And my mother was scared, because little kid, that can kill you.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So I definitely have that memory of it. And of course we talked about how they delivered the milk. And on that day, the milk wasn't a milk truck, it was the milk horse wagon. And the horse knew the places it went. I don't think it was Farmer's Dairy, but it was a local dairy. And the horse knew the houses that would take the milk and those that didn't. And when the milkman switched over to trucks, they didn't like that because the horse knew. And they had a little case they would carry which had 6 bottles in it, and they'd make a little rattling sound. And the guy would just go, and he knew whether you took skim, homogenized, I think that was the only 2 choices at the time, and the ones with the cream on top. And they would walk to each house, and mainly the houses just got milk. You could get ice cream and things, but our neighborhood, nobody had money for that kind of stuff, right? And then when he went to the next house, once he walked away from the truck and went to the house, the horse would move on. Go to the next house. The horse would be stopped there waiting for him. And then he would walk up to it, and then he went. I don't know how he explained new customer to the horse, but the horse eventually figured it out, right? But then there was no driving. He would just walk along, and the milk was delivered ahead of him, right? So I definitely have memories of that happening on the street. When we moved to Dartmouth, the horse era was over. And there was also a bread man. And he delivered bread, not to our place. Have people. They had
The horse era was over by the time you moved to Dartmouth?
Yep.
Wow.
Then it went to milk trucks. And the milk trucks weren't refrigerated. They had ice below the boards. And I kept them cool inside. And they put big chunks of ice in. They didn't have refrigeration units in the beginnings. And in hot weather, you could see the water dripping on the road when they go by. Right? And they were designed in such a way that the ice went under the floorboards. And then probably different manufacturers had different approaches to what they did.
So when you moved to Dartmouth, you were roughly, what, 5, 6 years old?
Yeah, 5 years old, I'm going to say.
Yeah, they probably want to move you there before you started grade 1.
No, my father would, maybe, but grade 1 wasn't a big deal back in the day, right? But my father wanted to be close to his family. That was my mother and father's agreement. They would live and raise in Nova Scotia, retire in British Columbia. You want to hear another milkman story?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Farmer's Dairy had a Chevrolet truck. And the milkman was just the nicest guy you could ever meet. So at Christmas time, when he went house to house, they got him drunk. And then the milkman was threatened with losing his job because he was drinking on the job. So all the neighbors got together. I don't know if they wrote or phoned or whatever, and they said it wasn't his fault, that he was such a nice guy. Everybody gave him a drink and he couldn't turn them down. And that's why he was drunk. And they thought it was unfair that he should lose his job because he really wasn't a drinker. But it was at Christmas and they were just celebrating how much they appreciated him. So he got his job back.
And he didn't want to be rude, so...
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, being that his tolerance for alcohol was...
Yeah. And that only happened once, then all the neighbors didn't offer him a drink after.
That's one of those precious innocent stories.
Yeah, so that was funny. And I have a mental image of what that truck looked like. And it was what the milk
Wow, and that was in Dartmouth.
Yeah, that was in Dartmouth. Right? And our street wasn't paved back in the day. It was just dirt. And eventually it changed. I think the guy who did him in the most was Darrell Lason's dad, because he had some Navy rum, right? And that, so we all blamed him anyway, whether that was right or not. Right? That was the rumor that everybody created, whether it had truth or not didn't matter. Right? Yeah. But he was an exceptional man. He loved his job and he loved the people, and it was just. And there were two different dairies that serviced the house.
So that was the front page news story in your community back then.
Yeah, and there was Woodlawn Dairy, and there's a street in the back called Woodlawn, so maybe it was there. I wasn't old enough, but there was Woodlawn and there was Farmers Dairy, and they had the milk rights.
And who delivered to your place?
Farmers.
Farmers?
Yeah. The guy that got drunk.
Yeah. And
when I moved to British Columbia, my aunt was still in White Rock, was still having the Danish grocer come by, and he would sell her coffee and he would sell her Danish meats, and he had a truck and he still sold out of it. And that was in the 60s. That was
in White Rock?
In White Rock. That was still going on.
Here in British Columbia?
In British Columbia, right. And my grandmother still had, out in the country, then there was a guy who had a big grocery route, and he had a huge truck. And you could walk right in it, just like a corner store. And then she would choose her tea and those stupid little dead white biscuits. They weren't digestive. They were the ones, I swear, were left over from lifeboats. Probably had zero nutrition in them. But she would purchase a lot of groceries from him because, of course, the stores, they weren't nearby. And that went on right up into the 60s. When I left, my grandmother was still buying groceries from him. He'd come up the long way up the driveway and park there, and my grandmother come out and choose her groceries.
I saw the document from your grandmother's grave last night. She passed away in that. Her name was Gertrude, right?
Gertrude, yeah.
And she passed away in 1987.
Yeah, she was 93. Because I was just going through your documentation this morning and noticed she was 93 years old.
Yeah. Oh, isn't that interesting?
Yeah. And my grandfather passed at 76, and they all had a lot of tears for that because I was horrendously young, reporters like. To go in your 70s, that was unheard of.